All right, here we are. It's Elizabeth at Living Vibrantly, and I owe you an update on our fertility process and fertility treatments. I dropped off the face of the earth before our frozen embryo transfer. As you can probably guess, maybe you can't see that low, but not pregnant. So we had a failed transfer, and I just wanted to give an update on that whole event and next steps. I appreciate you guys who have been following our story. Sorry, hopefully you could hear that. The microphone was covered up. I appreciate you guys who've been following our story and didn't want to leave you hanging. There's nothing really happening just yet coming up, but there will be, and I'll share again when we get started again. So that last video that I made, when was that published? I guess I can't see the date on here. But I think it was probably early June. Our embryo transfer was June 21st, summer solstice, and I was feeling really good about that date. So I think I had shared that I was having fluid issues in my lining, and not just fluid in the uterus, but fluid-filled tubes. It's suspected to be because of endometriosis, and I had had a CT and then an MRI to get a more detailed look, and it showed that the tubes are getting blocked up by scar tissue. So the recommendation was that I actually get my tubes removed before we attempt a transfer, because it would double our chances of success. But I just felt really strongly, partly because of my history of surgery and unexplained bleeding, that it would be less risky to attempt a transfer, and we were given approximate chance of success of 40 to 50%, which sounds pretty good when you're used to thinking you have like a 0% chance of getting pregnant. So I just had a good feeling about it, and we decided to go ahead with it, and it didn't work out. So that was really tough, to lose that little soul. I don't know if I can call it that quite yet, but I guess, I don't know, our little soul that we won't get to meet. And you never know if it was because of the fluid. So to get specific about why that would be a problem, conditions need to be very precise for implantation to occur. So when they place the embryo in your uterus, that's not implantation. This kind of gets under my skin because people use this like technical sounding term without really understanding what it means. And I know they don't intend to, but then if you are corrected and you keep doing it, you got to do better. So anyway, embryo transfer is when they place the embryo in your uterus, and it goes through like a catheter, right? Like a tube into your cervix, and then they send the embryo through the tube. It reminds me of like, I don't know if they have these anymore. We do all our banking online, but when you used to go to the bank to deposit checks and you go through the drive-thru, you put it in a capsule and then it goes up the tube to the teller. So that's what they did with our embryo. And they actually have it on ultrasound so they can see like exactly where in the uterus they're placing it. So the other thing is I had a fibroid, so I wanted to place it in a spot that was away from that, because that can also prevent implantation. But what can happen with the fluid is if the fluid comes into your uterus at the wrong time, like during the precise time period that implantation needs to occur, which is the embryo like burrowing its way into the lining. If the fluid's in there, it kind of just washes everything out, and you lose the pregnancy. So that may be what happened, or you never know. It could have been a chromosomal abnormality. There are other reasons that people have miscarriages, or they conception occurs, but they never know that it did because implantation doesn't occur. So who knows? We don't really know the reason, but we don't want to do another transfer because we only had 4 embryos. We don't want to do another transfer until we, I don't think we'd do one without me getting that surgery. And so that's what we're looking at, but we're just kind of taking a break for now and enjoying life. I just went to Costa Rica on a writer's retreat, and we're looking at doing some traveling together coming up too, and just wanting to like enjoy each other's company, because we have been married for almost 7 years, and the whole time we've been trying to get pregnant, and on and off. And I mean, it's not that we haven't enjoyed each other's company. We've done a lot of traveling together too, but just to have a time period where we're not doing all these appointments and drugs and shots and just like chill and live our lives. So that's what we're doing right now. And what else can I say about it? That's I mean, the 2-week wait was pretty tough, just mentally, because it's just the feeling that your whole life can change or not. And I was not tempted at all to buy a home test, not even in the slightest, because they're notoriously inaccurate. People get a false negative. You don't really get a false positive, but you get a false negative, and then it's like you're disappointed. I mean, I just didn't want to be on that emotional roller coaster. So I kind of tried not to think about it. I was doing low impact exercise. Didn't really have a special diet other than like, I wasn't drinking alcohol. But just kind of like living my normal life. I did switch to different personal care products during that time. So I'm actually reading a book now called It Starts with the Egg about like the role of egg quality. So I don't know. That would only matter if we make more embryos, which I don't know is an option since I'm 40. But, toying with that idea. We'll see what happens like into next year. We got to move forward fairly quickly at this point. So something will be happening in 2020. Not quite sure what or when. As far as the embryo transfer itself, it kind of sucks that you can't have any pain management of any kind. I mean, I am not able to take ibuprofen. I think most people can take ibuprofen, but it doesn't numb out what's happening in the moment. It's extremely uncomfortable having a catheter threaded through your cervix, and then they're kind of like shifting it around, trying to get everything in position, and you just have to deal with it. I mean, it doesn't take that long, but it's extremely uncomfortable, and you're trying to relax and breathe and be in a happy place, and it's just like one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever experienced. The ERA test was more painful, which that was addressed in my last video. If you go and look, we have a playlist called Our Fertility Journey, I believe, or I have a playlist on my YouTube channel. So if you want the whole story and go back, go and look at the previous videos in the playlist. But they adjusted the timing of my meds based on the ERA endometrial receptivity analysis. And what they do for that is kind of like scrape out part of your lining to analyze the hormonal makeup of it. So that was much, much more painful than the embryo transfer. They said I would have like some spotting. I really didn't. What else about it? They gave me Valium and I felt nothing from it, but that is more for the uterus to relax versus your mind to relax. Muscle relaxer. But I, have heard that it's prescribed for mental factors as well, but I just didn't notice any effect. I didn't feel particularly relaxed at all. One thing that the doctor told us, and I had read this in different places about how laughter like encourages implantation, like just kind of the full body relaxation response, I guess. And the doctor, when I mentioned that, or actually I think the doctor brought it up and she's like, yeah, the study, because Sean was like, yeah, I want to see the study. And so the doctor actually told us about it, that what they found, I think it was like an effect that they noticed accidentally, and then they, made a hypothesis and they tested it deliberately, and it was a strong effect. And it was this like fertility clinic that had clowns who would go around like, entertaining and trying to help the patients relax right before their embryo transfer. So the group that saw the clowns beforehand had a higher success rate. So, I think if we do it again, we went out to dinner with family. We had like a fun, nice, supportive day, but I think I'll literally just like watch funny movies for 2 days afterwards, 2 or 3 days next time if we do it again. So I felt like this was going to be a much longer video. Let me see if I can figure out anything that I'm forgetting. They have you stay on estrogen until estrogen and progesterone, so the twice daily shots. And actually, I don't know if I mentioned this in the last video, those shots were super painful for me in the beginning, to the point where, like, because they draw a circle with marker on your back and you're just supposed to shoot, like, give the shot within the circle. So Sean went, like, right in the center, and somehow it, like, irritated my like sacroiliac joint and the muscles all around there, and so it was really stiff. And then I was, I'd be like walking and trying not to let my hips bend, which is extremely awkward. And then I started having like knee and ankle pain because my back wasn't moving when I was walking. Like, then all the, it transmits to the next joint. So that wasn't working. And what we ended up figuring out, to go like, laterally, like out to the side, still in the gluteus muscle, but, further out towards the outer edge of the circle was much, much more comfortable for me. So once we found that spot, we were good. That was like the biggest issue. And then I had a lot of trouble with nausea from the estrogen taken by mouth. And pretty much my addiction to sparkling water is back, because the bubbles really help my stomach. And, there was a lot that I couldn't eat, but that's more related to my history of unexplained bleeding. And I was on a special diet for that, but just because there was so much I was not able to eat that I normally can, I just had kind of more carbs than usual, because not that like, protein was off limits or anything, but I was just kind of feeling sorry for myself, I guess, that like a lot of my favorite foods like garlic, ginger, cinnamon, cayenne, like all the really flavorful things I couldn't have. So, and no supplements either. So protein shakes, like, I made myself healthy breakfast instead of a protein shake, and, you adapt and it was fine. But just on the note of like dietary changes and difficulties I experienced, that was really the bulk of it. It wasn't anything too bad at all. I was able to keep working just fine. Yeah. Obviously you can't travel during that time because you're getting monitored at the clinic like twice a week. But there was actually a chance. So like if I had been pregnant, then I would have continued with progesterone shots, I think, to like 10 or 12 weeks. And so I would have had to be doing them in a hotel room, which I was not happy about. But obviously I would have done it, but it didn't come to that. So we were looking into that and like flying with the medication and things like that. But maybe we'll get a chance down the road. Anyway, let me know if you have any questions. I think that really covers it, and I will update you guys when there are some new developments. Thank you for your interest in our story. And if you want to be sure to be notified next time, subscribe to my channel and then also turn on notifications, and it will send you a notification when I upload a new video. All right, see you later.